Hello everybody, welcome to my demo here of this dragon model I have just finished training. So this is mostly going to be a demo for the people on my Patreon page. I'm going to show them some specific kind of prompts to use with this, but this will all also help you if you're using a model and you're having some problems with it. I'm going to show a couple of kind of tweaks I did to make my model work right. Like for one thing, it seemed to work better with more steps, so I'm not training this like you probably won't be either with thousands and thousands of pictures like most of the models are trained on. So hopefully, even if you're not on my Patreon page, you might get some use out of this video. And for those on my Patreon page, I really recommend that you look at this before you download the model because it is about 4 GB. And this will kind of show you what it does. These models are, in a lot of ways, kind of one-trick ponies. They're kind of made to do specific things. You can only train, one kind of theme at a time. I guess you could throw a bunch of stuff together, but then it would just be kind of a mishmash. So this model here in particular, I set up to do dragons just because I've always wanted to kind of throw dragons in my scenes, and even with stable, it seemed to kind of have some issues with the anatomy. But what was really surprising to me is how great this also works as a modifier for like humans and stuff, and it just kind of has its own flavor. So I'm kind of learning along with you here. So let me first show you how to set it up. Once you've downloaded the model, the Dragon model, which I'm going to provide a link for you on the Patreon page, you want to make a copy of it. So it's called Drago 1 model. And I specifically named it that for a reason, which I will get here shortly. And you put it here in the custom checkpoint path, and then you select this option here, custom. So I've done that. Everything else has been normal so far. So I'm just going to run this part. Okay, I'm going to load the model. Now this might take a little while, and I'm just going to put on animation settings none, but I'm actually really anxious to do a video with this. I haven't done any videos yet, so maybe I'll do one here at the end of this. So for now, I'm just going to put none there, and then, okay, and while this is loading up, I also want you to show you something. So this is what I entered for the instance prompt, is this word right here, Drago1. So what this will do is this will directly access the model that I have trained, the images that I've trained there and everything. And I named it this so that we could also still use dragon. So Drago1 is kind of a very specific keyword. So this will strictly access basically the new things. And this model, even without using this, it will render things differently from the default model, which is this one, I believe, the SD14. So this will act a little differently even without that keyword, but I kind of wanted to just start with this so you can just kind of see what exactly it's kind of drawing from for reference here. And this will just be a pure rendering of the Drago 1. And let's see, let's go ahead and put it. I also want to show you another thing here. It does work with the KLMS, but I found you really have to up the steps a lot or you'll get kind of these weird blotches. And it also seems to work better for some reason after you run it in this and then go back to this. So we'll do a little bit of testing here of that too. But let me just go ahead and kind of show you this right now. Let me go ahead and create a new batch name for this really quick first, just to keep it organized here. I'll call this the third test. This is actually probably the fourth or fifth test I've done here. I did a lot of this last night. I really ran it through the middle last night and got some good prompts here that I will be sharing with you on the Patreon page. And this is going to be kind of a guide though on how to use it basically. Okay, so it's going to make 6 images here. So I've only got 30 steps here. And we can kind of see there's sometimes with this KLMS and with too few steps, you get these kind of little like this. This is what I was talking about. See these splotchy spots? Now I think this is just a direct cause of the model not being trained on thousands and thousands of images, but I'm not sure. So let me show you right now. I've got this on, yeah, I've got it on seed 1. So I did manage to get rid of this effect by turning the steps up. So I'm going to go ahead now and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this down to 4. And I'm going to give it a lot more steps than you would normally do on a KLMS. We'll try 60 here. Okay, so you can see these kind of color blotches. This doesn't seem to happen too much either in the other one, in the DPM Ancestral. So I'm not, I don't really know a lot of the technical stuff about the models. So a lot of this I've just found out through trial and error. So we're going to go ahead and run this now at 60 and see if we got rid of those. Okay, and I'm using the same seed. I'm just using a seed one, so it will just go seed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got it on iteration. So it should render the same for images, and we'll see if it did a job at getting rid of those blotches. Okay, and so you can see now it's not rendering those blotchy spots. And again, I'm not sure what the cause is of that. It's probably just because my model wasn't trained like most of them are, with thousands and thousands of images. So what I did was I took images that I made sure were real centered and kind of clean and that kind of stuff. And so this is just a pure rendering of just my model. So this isn't really how I did intend this to render realistic dragons, but right now this is just strictly Drago 1. So let me go ahead and show you also the difference between this and the regular model, just so we can see it. I'll go ahead and load up the default model here. So you can see that Drago one, I had made that with the intention of it not being related to anything, but there actually is a Rocky character, Rocky 3, I think, Drago, the Russian guy. So it did kind of render a couple of him the other day, and then it also, I think it's similar enough to Dragon that it does render Dragon a little bit, but nothing like what we just saw in Drago 1. So we'll go ahead and run this again after the regular model loads, and I'll show you. I just kind of want to show you the difference. And then I'm going to put a different prompt in there just to show you that it'll also, even if you don't use this phrase, it will render all of your images a little different. So I just kind of wanted to show you though, because this is a 4 GB model file. So I kind of wanted to show you what you can use it for. And if it's something you want to use it, I made this to kind of make not even better dragon images, although that was my idea, to kind of make a more coherent dragon, but also just have something kind of unique and different. And this really does have kind of a unique flavor to it, which we will see when I start adding some more things in there besides just the Drago one, because it doesn't really shine until you start adding some other elements in there. Like you can actually mix that. You can use it kind of as a modifier. So you don't just use this to just make dragons. You can also use it like as a portrait, and it'll kind of combine that Drago one model with portraits of people, and it kind of gives these cool kind of hybrids, some images that I haven't really seen much before. So I'm going to go ahead and let this run, and then we'll come back when this regular model is loaded. Okay, and these are all done rendering. So this is just with the regular model, what happens when we enter Drago 1. So again, my main idea with using this specific keyword for the model was so that we could still use dragon. I didn't want to name it dragon because then it would also draw from the other dragons, I think. But so this is Drago 1 on the regular model, and you can see it still does kind of draw from dragons a bit there, that one. And then there is Drago from Rocky. So let's go back now to the custom model again. And I still got that prompt Drago one. Okay, now I'm going to load up my model again here, and then we'll really get into it and we'll see some cool stuff here. Okay, I've got the custom model up and running, and let's go ahead and do a Drago 1 Dragon. Let's just kind of do it traditional. I'll just put a few other ones in here. And again, my settings here, I've got 60 steps. I am using the KLMS. It does seem to work a little better with the DPM2 Ancestral, so I'll go ahead and run that next. After this, it does take a lot longer though when you do that. And again, I'm not sure why it does have that issue when you don't do enough steps where it gets those blotches, but cranking up the steps does seem to get rid of that. So I really wanted to kind of help troubleshoot this for you too as well before you use the model and kind of show you what it does. So there is a dragon, and I do have some more. I actually found too that if you instead of using dragon, like if you use creature, I did put that as the class name for it, a creature. I'm not really sure what the class name does, how that works. But again, my goal was just to kind of keep it separate from Dragon so you could still use Dragon in the prompt. And here's another good thing to do is to throw in symmetrical wings. And then, of course, adding artists always helps as well. So I'll just throw in a couple of more modifiers here and we should get some cool images here. So this is just a pretty simple drag-o-one dragon here, but this is just kind of giving you an idea of the flavor of the model. Let me go ahead now and pull out some other ones. Okay, and I've got a few more things in here. I've got an artist in here, symmetrical wings, and a couple other things. And I will be posting all these prompts and settings on the Patreon page. Let's go ahead and run this one, and I can show you how we can use it to create. Do I got creature in there? Yeah, I just got creature. So this does really create some pretty cool looking dragon-like creatures too. And sometimes it just looks like a dragon. Sometimes it's a little different. The artist has a lot to do with it here too. And I'm going to go ahead after this and show you some kind of hybrid portraits as well. So there we get something that's a little more dramatic and might not look like a traditional dragon, but it still kind of has a cool kind of unique flavor to it there. Okay, and here's our result. Here are our images. If you notice too, because it's not trained on thousands of models, you'll get some kind of similar effects sometimes. And that one looks kind of cool. Looks like it's on a lake. There's even a little reflection there. And again, with this, I didn't use dragon. I just used a creature. So let me go ahead and add in a different artist. I'll show you. The artists really do kind of make a pretty big difference here. Okay, I just want to point out on this first one here, we're getting a little of that. So we can even turn it up even more. I'm going to go test that and see if we can get rid of this spot by cranking it up to 80 steps. And I don't know if that's because it's not getting enough information from the prompts or what causes that, but let's go ahead and just do a quick test on that as well. So I'm going to turn this up to 80 and just see, since I'm using the same seed, it should give us this first image again, hopefully without that little spot there. And then after this, I'm going to go ahead and run the other one, the DPM Ancestral. That seems to be one of the better, what do they call these? The sampler, yeah. That seems to be one of the better samplers actually that this model works on. And that might be the case with all models we make from that Dreambooth, I'm not sure. So I think this video should help you also just in making models with that. Okay, so if you notice by turning up the steps, that spot is gone now. So that does take care of the issue. Again, I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what is the initial cause of it, but that is the solution. So it'll take a little longer, but we can get some much better renders if we crank the steps up a lot higher than we're normally used to here. Okay, our four renders are done here, and let's take a look at them. So you see this really, you do really kind of get, this model definitely has a flavor to it. It kind of has a lot of these curved spiky things a lot of times. And I just kind of like it. And let me show you now where I think it really shines. Actually, let's do this. Let's take out these symmetrical wings, give it a little more freedom. And let's try that other sampler, that DPM Ancestral, and let me show you that one. And with that one also, we can turn the steps down a bit, hopefully, without getting that. This one doesn't seem to be as prone to those kind of weird spots. This sampler does take more steps though than the other one, just normally. So maybe I'll just leave it at 80. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and change this. Okay, I'll go ahead and run this, and we'll see what these four images look like. Okay, these are done now. And again, like I said, I do think I really get, especially with creatures, with dragons, you get better results with the DPM2 Ancestor with this model, it seems. And so here are the renders here, and I did take off that symmetrical wings. But if you'll notice, even without typing dragon, we are going to get dragon-like features because all the images I used to train it were dragons. And the last one didn't come out very good. There's no head, but you can see some of these, like that one in particular. I really like that one. That one looks pretty cool and very dragon-like. And now let me show you something really fun that I kind of stumbled across by accident. Because this model is trained just for dragons, you kind of get these features even like when you're doing character portraits and things. But let's go ahead and let's try to do dragon. Let's just change it by putting dragon in there instead of creature. And I'm not sure if this is going to be more dragon-like. It seemed to kind of do better actually with creature than dragon. I don't know why, but let's go ahead and try this again. Okay, our render here is done. And on this one, we've got the same as before. We got a dragon instead of creature. You can see the first one didn't really turn out that good. This one's kind of distorted. This one looked kind of like a dragon. And this last one's pretty decent. But it almost seems to do better sometimes with this model anyway. If you just put creature, you'll still get something dragon-like because it just uses dragons. But there's a lot of experimenting to do with this. Let me show you actually what I think is actually one of the cooler things with this is to kind of use it as a modifier. And I'm going to enter that. Now, depending on the artist you use too, you might get some, not safe for work stuff. Like I've got Geiger in here. So just so you know, when you're using some of these artists, you might get some slight nudity, stuff like that. Let me go ahead and run this one and we'll see if I can post this on here or not. Okay, this one is done. And this is what I really thought was cool. I really thought this is where the model shines when you kind of do this hybrid. So I've got portrait of a Drago 1 woman. Now the other thing is, depending on the artist you use, sometimes you might just get a portrait of a woman or a man that just looks normal. It kind of seems to depend on what artists use. I'm not sure. I think if it's an artist that does a lot of portraits, then it might just look normal. But let's go ahead and look at these. I already checked these out. These are all safe. So you get some cool stuff like this person with the dragon's head. And sometimes you'll get them that look more human, and sometimes you'll just get this that'll just look mostly like a dragon and stuff like this. So I really thought this looks to me like even cooler than the dragons. Something else that was interesting is when I used man, just for this combo, it seemed to do more dragon looking creatures, not really a hybrid. So there's a lot of experimenting to do with this model. Let me go ahead and try to run this with the man, and I'll show you. We'll see if this happens again. Okay, and this one is done. And all I did was swap out man for woman. And if you'll notice, we get a lot more. There's kind of a humanoid looking one, but you don't really see the features of a human as much for some reason when we did that. And I have the seed still on. So what I'm going to do here is show you another thing. So it can also be affected by the artist. So if you're trying to get a hybrid and you're just getting like human looking faces, maybe try switching out the artists or even just taking them out. Okay, and it definitely has a different flavor. Again, I've got that same seed. I've got the seed starting at 1. So this is just slightly different. The other one, I just took out Geiger and I put in this William Adolph Bouguereau. I'm probably mangling that last name, but this is a turn of the century artist who did mostly portrait painting. So let's go ahead and take it down even more. And I'll just leave that in and the art derm and WLOP. And we'll see. I'll let this do one more here since it's about done. But we're still getting kind of that hybrid look. Yeah, and then that one's kind of similar to the other one as well. It kind of had that kind of cobra hood. So I kind of like that effect. Let's go ahead and stop it, and I'm going to do it again here. So if you are trying to do these kind of hybrid pictures and you're not getting that dragon effect, maybe just try a different artist or just adjust your prompt a little. It's still real experimental for me. I've been working on this model a while, but I really got into it last night. I redid the whole thing. I changed a lot of the training images I had used and I got them all centered. And I also experimented a lot with the different samplers and everything. And I figured out this one, I usually would get better images with this. And also I figured out that some artists, for some reason, it just doesn't give you that kind of dragon effect. So feel free to experiment. And like I said too, I am going to give you a bunch of prompts here on my Patreon page that'll have um, prompts that definitely work with artists and stuff, and then you can tweak them a little bit, change them a little bit, but you'll definitely get the dragon effect here, the kind of human dragon hybrid look. It really kind of looks alien too. Okay, there we go. So if you notice this one now, it doesn't have hardly any at all of the dragon effect. So if this happens, maybe change out the artist. Like let me show you another one. I'll swap this out now with HR Geiger, and I think HR Geiger had more of a dragon effect. I think that's why I added him in the first place when I was playing with this. I think the more portrait oriented an artist is, the less likely you are to get the kind of dragon human hybrid. You'll get mostly the human. And I will have some too that worked with using a man. I used like a pirate, and some of those worked pretty good. They didn't quite get that full dragon hybrid, but I will have some there on the page, on the Patreon page for you to use. Okay, so if you notice, I just changed out that one artist for HR Geiger. I changed out that turn of the century portrait artist. Now, if you notice, we got a lot more dragon-like features, where in the other one, it just basically looked like a normal portrait. So I just wanted to point that out. So if you're not getting enough of the dragon, just try to switch your prompts or your artist, that kind of thing. And then let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and use this same prompt here that I did originally. Okay, so if you'll recognize this, this is from the first run. And I just want to show there's also a really big difference between using that DPM2 and the KLMS. So the DPM2, it does take a lot longer to render, but I think for the most part you get a little better results. So let's go ahead and now run it with the KLMS. And then again, sometimes you get those blotches on the KLMS. If you're getting that, go ahead and just crank the steps up. I think 80 should take care of just about all those. You can also play around with the scale, and like I said, I just did pretty extensive sampling last night just to get some good prompts. But I have, there's like, I don't think I've tested every single one of these. I've just done down to about here. And this one I think works the best. This one is kind of faster and you can get this one to work, but I really think the DPM2, you get kind of better results. Let's go ahead and let this one run. Actually, I'd say that one looks just as good as the DPM2. That was another thing that's kind of weird. The first time I ran it with the KLMS, it seemed to be really horrible, but then after I ran the DPM Ancestral and then went back to it, it looked kind of normal, kind of like it does now. This really doesn't look that much different from the ones we just did on the DPM. So yeah, so maybe I'll just start using this one. But let's go ahead now. I just kind of wanted to show you what this model does, and let me show you a couple other cool things we can do here. Okay, and you can see there's a pretty drastic difference between this first picture and the other one. And then there again, we get just basically, a woman without really any dragon elements in it at all. But let me go ahead and go through what you do now. So once you download the file, again, this is a 4 GB file. So I just wanted to show you what it does, and I think it is going to give us, the opportunity here to do really kind of unique looking renders here. So I just copy the Drag-O1 model here, paste it here, and then to use it, oh yeah, you also have to select custom, and then I didn't change anything else. This is the same model config I had. I think, yeah, I think that's the only one I've ever used. And let's see. And then just remember that Drago1 is the keyword to use that model, the images that I've trained with it. And feel free to experiment, and I'd love to see what you all are making. And if you notice, sometimes we'll get straight dragons. I'm gonna do a couple more experiments here, and I'm also gonna make a video here at the end because I haven't done a video yet. So I'm gonna come up with a couple more prompts here to add, and this model will be up on the Patreon page. I'm going to post a link there for you to send me your email, and I'll give you the Google file link. And this model I'm gonna make available to all Patreon members. And then I'm going to do another one before the month is over for the tier 2 members. And I might do some occasionally too, just for, the YouTube channel here too as well. I'm going to see, if people like these models, if, you guys, if you all enjoy them and want more, I will keep making more. I really like them just because it's a way to kind of do something different. So I'm going to go ahead and come up with another prompt here and make a movie. And well, let's do a couple more images first. I'm just going to fly from the hip here. Um, Okay, so I've started here and I'm not really getting any signs of the Drago1 there. So what I'm going to do is go back to that previous artist combination that we had for the other one, for the Drago1 woman, and see if this works. Yeah, we are in the DPM2, so okay, we're going to go ahead and give this a try again. Okay, and it did work as far as bringing the Drago, and now we're kind of getting both elements separately, which is kind of cool also. I kind of like this one here, except for that part. But that ocean looks good. You know what? Something else too. That's kind of interesting. I'm gonna take out the stormy ocean part of this and just reduce the elements. Maybe this will give us more of a mix. I'm trying to get a mix of creature and machine here, kind of a biomechanical thing. We'll see how this one turns out. Okay, and these ones came out kind of interesting. Not quite what I was expecting, but this is what I really like doing. I really just like experimenting and finding new things. And I kind of like this one. I like that one too, how that tail kind of goes off into almost to infinity back there in the background. And I did tweak it just a little bit. I'm going to try this prompt one more time with a couple of minor changes. Okay, and the first one's kind of interesting, but I don't really like the kind of the lines of it. Not bad. This one I like a lot. This one kind of interesting. And this one is kind of cool as well. It's not quite coherent, just kind of has that big flame in the background. I don't really see the dragon. But this is definitely a really fun model to play around with. I'm going to try a couple more things here. Yeah, I really like that one. Okay, let me try one more here. I'm just kind of using it as a modifier here to see what it does to like a city. And I'm going to replace this artist with like a sci-fi artist. Let's see what this one looks like. Oh, another thing I can do is try it with a KLMS sampler. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and run this. Okay, and this is wrapping up, and there we've kind of got the Drago 1 in the city. This is kind of what I was going for. I kind of wanted to merge the Drago 1 elements of the model with the architecture itself. So that one's cool. That was actually kind of what I was going for. And that one looks like it did a little bit too. Oh, that one's cool. Yeah, so this is going to be fun. Sure, this is going to be fun. Let's go do one more here. And then I'm going to get to experimenting here and post these prompts for the Patreon members. And if you're not a Patreon member, I hope you still found this video interesting. I think I'm definitely going to really like making these models. This is really the first one I've done kind of in real serious fashion, other than the tutorials. And I've spent a lot of time on this one. And I'm going to just run that same setting now with the KLMS, just to see if that merges it better. My instinct is going to be this is worse. I've usually had better luck with the DPM2 Ancestral. But let's try it and see what we get. This is also a lot quicker, so if this does work, it's actually better to use this one because it's about 3 times as fast when it renders it. Oh yeah, I actually like that one better. That's kind of merging the elements in the city, which is kind of what I wanted. Cool. Well, I'll go ahead and let these finish. Okay, everyone, thank you for watching, and I like this one. This is probably my favorite one out of these cityscape ones so far. It kind of blends all the elements together. That has a little bit of that blotchy effect there, even though we're up to 80. Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting and fun model to use. I am going to get back to it here with my experimenting. And thank you very much for watching this. And again, for my Patreon members, so the main thing to know is your Drago on here. This is the keyword to invoke the power of this model. And then, experiment your hearts away. Show me what you're making with it. And I will get this uploaded probably to Google Drive here sometime tonight. And I will send you the instructions on how to get the link to that. And I may or may not post a video on the end of this. I'm going to go ahead and see, but there will definitely be a video coming with this model in the future. If I don't do it tonight, it will be very soon. I might spend the rest of the night just getting this set up and everything for my Patreon members. And if this catches on, I might just start making these. I actually think I'm going to like this as much as just doing the videos and images because this is really my first one. I had a lot of fun making this, and it's kind of cool to get these kind of unique looking images, from using the old model. So y'all have a great rest of your day. Let me just do this one more time here. So once you download the model, upload it someplace permanent to your Google Drive. So don't upload it to the instance. Make sure it's in your My Drive section. Just right click the Drago 1 model file, copy the path, paste it over here to the custom checkpoint path, and just select custom model. And that's all there is to it. And then you use your Drago 1 modifier there. So thank you all for watching. You all have a great rest of your day.